All right, hello everyone, this is Pedram, and in this video I'll be talking about VS Code interactive window. Okay, so what is an interactive window and why do we need it? Let me go ahead and open my VS Code editor, and this is where we left off last time. Okay, so as you remember, we know how to run this Python in a terminal. We know how we can run it separately as an output. So let's run it and see what is the output of this Python code. So it's a very simple Python that we put in the Python folder on our working space called YouTube. So this working space, we named it as workspace underscore YouTube. Okay, so and as you can see, by default, it's going to go ahead and run it in my YouTube environment. So in the previous video, I told you how you can set up your Conda environment, and we talked about why we need to, sometimes it's a good idea to run different projects in different environments. So if you need to change the interpreter or change the environment, we use the command conda activate the name of the environment. Or if you need to change the Python interpreter, you can come here, click on this interpreter, and this is the list of available interpreter that I can pick. So for this video, we are going to stick to our YouTube environment and do our codes there. Okay, so let's talk about interactive window. So right now, when I run this thing, it's going to generate the output in the terminal, right? So either if I run it like this, or if I simply, select all and do Shift Enter, okay? So right now the Python is open, so the Python is being run in the terminal, and now I can interact with the terminal like this, right? So this is cool. We can interact with the terminal like this, but it's still maybe it's not. This doesn't look good, or I don't have access to my variables. I don't see the list of variables at one place. So I need to, I like this interactivity when I run Python in terminal. However, it lacks lots of other features. So let's see how we can, so what is an interactive window, which is available in the VS Code editor. So let me go ahead and exit this Python code, exit. And now I'm gonna go ahead and open a new interactive window. So there are multiple ways you can do that. So as always, we can go to the command palette and search for interactive window. So you see here it says that, okay, create an interactive window. And as you can see, this is from Jupyter extension. So you must have already installed Jupyter extension, which this is what we did before. And if I click on this create interactive window, it's going to automatically generate this window for me. But it says that running this with Python 3.10 requires ipykernel package. So let's go ahead and install that package too. Okay, this package is being installed. Well, actually, this is an extension. If I go to the list of my extension, now the ipykernel should be added to this extension in a minute. Okay, so while this being installed, let me actually tell you what is the motivation. Why are we interested in running things in an interactive window? So this, for those of you who are familiar with Jupyter Notebook or Jupyter Lab, so this is the environment that you can, while once your Python is up and running, Python code is up and running, you can write code here in what we call cells. And then you can basically interact in a nice window. You can look at the list of the variables here. When you do a plot, you can export that plot. You can easily save it. You can change the size of the plot, and etc. If you have an interactive plot working with a package like, I don't know, the Plotly, then you want to see that interactive plot in a nice window like this. So now it seems that that package, that extension is installed completely, and now we can run our code in this interactive window, right? So one way is to, of course, obviously I copy code from here and paste it here and then run the cell, right? And all the commands that we used to have in a Jupyter Notebook, we can do them here. So for example, in a cell, I can do Shift Enter or Control Enter to run the cell. So now I have access to the variables. So for example, I know that my X variable is going to be 10. So if I say print X, it's going to go ahead and print 10. Then the cool thing about interactive window is that we have a list of variables here. If I click on this variable, then I can see, while I'm coding, whatever variable that I generate here, I see the list here. So this is a very, very big advantage of working with VS Code Editor compared to an IDE like Jupyter Lab or Jupyter Notebook. So I myself am a big fan of Jupyter Lab in terms of teaching purposes because it's very interactive. You can write code and text at the same time. However, one big disadvantage of that is whenever you wanted to recall what was inside a variable, you have to type it in. You have to look at the dimension. You have to look at the type of that variable. But with this in VS Code, when I'm writing some things in an interactive window, I can see a list of variables simultaneously right here. So for example, let me go ahead and let's make a list, right? Let's make a list of even numbers between 0 and 10 or including 10. So I call it even numbers, and then I use a list comprehension. Let me actually go ahead and minimize this one. I need more space. So I'm going to use list comprehension. I say X for X in range, let's say 11, if that number is an even number, right? So the mode 2 should be equal to 0. So if I go ahead and run this line, and I need to print it out. So let's print it out. Print even numbers. Even numbers. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and copy these two lines and paste it in the Neo cell and then run it. Okay, so here is the list of even numbers, and as you can see, as soon as I have it in the interactive window, the variable, which is a list here, is going to show up. So it says that even number is a list and of 6 numbers, right? So these are the even numbers. My X variable is an integer, and etc., etc. So this is a very cool feature of VS Code Editor, that we can run code in the interactive window as well. But as you may have guessed, this is not the most efficient way of coding, have an editor open and then copy and paste from editor here. So a better way is to somehow, if they can run the code, do something here, and when I do Shift Enter, automatically things should be transferred to this interactive window, right? So one way to do that is to put a hashtag and 2 of these percentage signs. So as soon as I type something like this, let's say hashtag percentage, and then this entire the rest of the code is going to become a cell, an entire cell. And now I can run this cell, and let me actually go ahead and make 2 cells. So let's say another pound and percent. So pound percent. So here I have 1 cell. So this is 1 cell. This is another cell. So meaning that if I run this cell, it's going to show up in an interactive window, right? So you can open the code. So this is the cell that has been run, and this is the output. If I go to the next cell, I can say, well, I accidentally clicked on run above. I can say run cell. Okay, this is a list of my even numbers. So as you can see, this is very, very useful, right? And so basically, whatever you have here, you want to test, you want to see the list of variables and basically do things in an interactive window. You can put a pound percent and make it in a separate cell. Okay. And let me show you another example for why these interactive windows are going to be useful. Okay, let's do a quick plot and see why it is better to do the plot in an interactive window. And so for that, I'm going to import a couple of packages. Import random. I'm going to also import matplotlib, matplotlib.pyplot as plt. It seems that I've not installed matplotlib in this environment yet, because remember guys, this is the YouTube environment that we created last time, and it hasn't anything installed on it yet, right, except some basic packages. So we need to install this matplotlib first. Let's go ahead and run it and see if we get an if the Python is going to complain. So pound %%. So let's run this cell. Okay, so no module name matplotlib. So let's go ahead and see how we should install matplotlib. So matplotlib install. We can do pip or conda. It really doesn't matter. If you have installed Python through Anaconda, you can do conda install. So this is the documentation. We can do something like this: conda install, and I see conda force matplotlib. We can simply copy and paste. So the cool thing about doing things in VS Code is that, remember last time we talked about it, you can't have your multiple terminals open at the same time. So let's go ahead, go to the new terminal. So this is our terminal. Let me try to make it bigger. Okay, right now this is in my YouTube environment. So this is the environment that I want to install that matplotlib package. So once you're in this environment, you can go ahead and type conda install or whatever name of the package, right? So we have something like this: conda install -c and conda force matplotlib. Let's press enter. So it's going to take a couple of minutes to install matplotlib, and this is one of the packages that you should install for any kind of project you're working on. So I'm going to go ahead and install it on my computer. Okay, so these are the dependencies that is going to be installed. All right, I had to pause the video because it took longer than I expected to install this matplotlib package. Okay, now we have the matplotlib package installed. Let's go ahead and do plt.plot, and we want to plot a random list of numbers, right? So I'm gonna make a random list from random this random integer. Let's say numbers between 0 and 100. And this is a list comprehension again. This is the easiest and fastest way to make a list in Python. So using list comprehension. For there's no iterator, I can do I or simply underscore in range. Let me see. Yeah, there should be some space. In range of let's say 100. Let's say 100 numbers. Okay. So if I go ahead and run this cell, it's going to so it's running the code here. Okay, all right. So now we have this interactive window which has our image in it. So if I run it in an interactive window, I can save the image by clicking on this button, or I can look at it here when I click on this thing, expand this image. So basically, well, they're the same. So if I have an interactive, let's say, figure using Plotly package, maybe down the road, I can play around with it here. I can zoom in, zoom out, and things like that. So this is another advantage of doing things in interactive window. Okay, so what about if I run this in a terminal? What will happen if I run this in a terminal, or i.e. if I run this by clicking on this button, right? So it's gonna go ahead and run it, and of course, let me see. Oh, all right. I don't see the plot because, again, this is not as if you're running it in an interactive window. You have to tell Python to show the plot. So I have to do plt show. Okay, so now when I click on this run button, it should give me, yeah, I can see that figure as a separate figure here, right? So again, it's up to you if you wanted to run codes like this in the terminal itself or run in an interactive window. One big advantage of doing things in interactive window is that you can see the variables, you can see the list of variables, and this is very nice. You can export this as a PDF. So for example, you can export this window, this interactive window, you should be able to export it as an HTML, as PDF. So this is some nice thing we can have. Then yeah, so now that we know what are the advantages of running things in interactive window, let's look at another way to automatically run things when I do shift enter in interactive window, right? So again, one way was copy the entire thing and paste it here. Another one was to do pound %% and then run cell. The third way, which is maybe the easiest way, is to change the setting. So change the setting such that when I do Shift Enter, instead of running code in the terminal, automatically run it in the interactive window. So let's go to our setting and type for, we should actually type for something like this, send selection. Yeah, send selection to interactive window. So right now we see that it's being used in one extension, which is Jupyter. Let's go ahead and click this one. So if I check this one, it means that when I do Shift Enter, automatically it's going to send the output to the interactive window. So this is maybe the easiest way to do that, right? So let me go ahead and close the setting. Now here, when I select things and do Shift Enter, automatically, let me actually close the interactive window. You see it for yourself. So when I don't need to have any of these things open. So let's say this is our Python file from scratch. I'm gonna select all and do Shift Enter. So when I do Shift Enter, automatically it's gonna open up the interactive window and run the code there. Okay, now I can continue and run the rest of my code here. So this is the third way of running your code in interactive window. All right, that's pretty much it. I hope you give it a try and enjoy coding. Until the next one, take care.